On asylum seeker policy, there are calls tonight for a return to the Pacific solution from an unlikely source. Sev Ozdovsky was Australia's Human Rights Commissioner from 2000 to 2005. In that role, he headed a landmark investigation that prompted the Howard government to abolish mandatory detention for children. He's told 7:30 he believes the Pacific solution is preferable to the Gillard government's current approach.
The key issue is that we relax our border protection policies. So we issued, in a way, an invitation to people around the world and said to them, listen, if you come to us, we will be not as harsh as the previous government was. So when you look at the refugee situation around the world, the numbers are going down. But we are attracting more of them, and we are attracting more of them mainly because we've got rid of our Pacific solution, and we said, come on, we'll look after you.
To be clear, are you suggesting that a return to the Pacific solution would be preferable?
At least when we were our detention center in Nauru, we were able to control the conditions in the detention center. If we sent them to Malaysia, and there was enough information in the last few days on TV about the quality of detention in Malaysia, I think it'll be a much worse solution.
Does it surprise you to hear yourself even saying, well, the Pacific solution, maybe it was better than what we're currently looking at? Did you ever imagine that day would come?
No. I think it's extremely disappointing. I think it's, however, a pragmatic response in the current circumstances.
It's nearly 7 years since your landmark report into children in detention. How do you think things compare today to what you were witnessing then?
I think they are as bad as they were before. It's in a way enormous disappointment to me that after initial changes which aimed at improving the deal for children in immigration detention, we return back to the same which we saw 7 years ago.
Why do you think things have crept backwards? Because as you say, there were significant changes made off the back of that report.
Well, it relates to the number of people who are coming to Australia now. At the moment, we've got almost 7,000 people in immigration detention. During the peak of Howard government, we had 3,500. So we've got double the number of people. So government is panicking and is trying to do something about it.
You spent about 2 years investigating the effects of detention on children. What effect does it have on them?
Tragic. Basically what's happening, children are detained for very long periods of time. The longest a child spent in Australian immigration detention, it was 5 years, 5 months and 20 days. I remember that case. Then they are missing enormous opportunities because access to schooling is inadequate. Then quite often the families are breaking down because there are not traditional roles for men and for women anymore. And quite a significant number of children acquired mental illnesses under the trauma of immigration detention. And what it really means that it will take a long time before they recover, and in some cases their whole life depended on our welfare system.
What sort of mental illnesses and what percentage of children had them? It's
difficult to say it because I didn't do survey of all children, but I saw children self-harming, I saw children going into razor wires, I read reports of attempted suicide. I, in case of one child, saw 20 reports from state child protection authorities saying that the child got to be released with parents because of the symptoms child developed, which were not being able to be treated in detention, and basically the Department of Immigration didn't act on the case.
How would we know whether or not those sorts of situations are occurring at the moment?
Well, the whole problem is we don't know. and you need to have a proper inquiry with proper judicial power to go into immigration detention centers, to call SERCO officials, immigration officials, to give evidence, to go to subpoena immigration department's documents to establish it. Therefore, I was calling on Human Rights Commission to reconstitute the inquiry and to have a look really what's happening there.
So a second full-scale inquiry similar
Very
to...
much so. Very much so. Because you see, the inquiry is not only putting under microscope what's happening in immigration attention, it also informs Australian public about what's happening over there. So it's having impact on public opinion. And I think it's very important that we as a society know what's really happening in immigration detention centers.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.